We're talking today with Eric Winters of Grand Rapids, Michigan. The interviewer is James Smither of the Grand Valley State University Veterans History Project. And you may also see at the lower end of the screen Eric's son James, who is sitting in on this session. And so for legal purposes, Eric, as James's father, are you willing to have his image made public?
I am.
Okay, very good. So we've taken care of that in case anyone is going to check on us. Okay, so Eric, let's begin with your story. So where and when were you born?
August 6, 1986.
And where?
Grand Rapids, Michigan.
Okay. And then did you grow up in Grand Rapids?
I did. Yep.
Okay. And what was your family doing for a living when you were a kid?
My mom and dad were nurses.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And let's see. So when did you finish high school?
2004.
Okay. And what did you do after you got out of high school?
I went basically straight into the Marine Corps.
Okay. So back up then. So you were in high school when 9/11 happened?
I was.
All right. So what do you remember?
I was in 10th grade that year.
Okay.
And I remember I was in kind of like a homeroom then, and we were getting ready to go to Kent Career Tech Center. And with that, I was like, uh-oh, this has happened, like, what are we going to do as far as, continuing with school and our day? And it was just something that completely really shocked, well, the world.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so many things were at a standstill that you couldn't control as a student, but you're, well, what now? Where do we go from here? This was, seeing the impact, it was like Pearl Harbor to us, our generation's Pearl Harbor. So.
It certainly was. I mean, pretty much everybody, 5 years older remembers where they were that day and what happened. So that it really is a landmark at that level. Okay. So you finish high school and you go, and then you go into the service from there. So which service branch did you pick?
I chose the Marine Corps.
Okay. And why did you pick them?
So honestly, I was 16 years old, and the Army recruiters, they were in the school, and I'm like, oh, I want to join. And they're basically like, get out of here, you're too young. Mm-hmm. And it was that interaction I had with that recruiter that was like, what do you mean? I want to be a part of the military so bad, and you're turning me away. And I understand now why legality, all that stuff, you heard the stories about those 14-year-olds in World War II, they went in, or 15 and 16, and I could have, or I would have, not could have, would have at that point done the same thing. Just, I was drawn to the military. Okay. But then a Marine recruiter came a couple weeks later, and I was kind of, looking at his table and moping around about, I got rejected. And he took a little bit more time and explained, well, yeah, you're too young, here's the liabilities why, but you can hang around with us. We have this delayed entry program, and through that, come hang out with us on the Saturdays if your parents are okay with it. And in doing that, I did get a lot more knowledge on the military and kind of prepared me for what I was going to see and focus on in boot camp. But yeah, so I just waited out my turn.
Okay. So the Marine Corps recruiter was more effective.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Now, you talk about, you knew you wanted to go in the military. Now, was that something that was already in your head before 9/11, or did 9/11 affect that somehow?
No, it definitely was kind of in my head before 9/11 as a middle school kid. Academically, things weren't the greatest, grade-wise, and attention to school and focus and whatnot. And then finances played a big role too. I remember the college recruiters come around and, hey, what do you want to do? But they're asking about, well, how much money does your parents make? And I'm like, who cares? My parents won't have any influence on me at the time. Once I turn 18, I'm an adult. Well, that's how we grade you for funding and scholarships and all that stuff. And my parents, growing up, were on the low end of the financial scale of anything, and kids are pretty cruel on a whole spectrum of things. And so if the kids found out, like, hey, you know, Eric's parents can afford to send him to college like some of the other kids, that was like blood in the water, you know, so to speak, for sharks. And so, yeah, I remember just being so mad about, they kept asking the financial details. I'm like, forget you guys. I got my own plan. I'm going to do the military anyway, because I'm going to have insurance. I'm going to have a roof over my head and the medical and whatnot. Like, I got it figured out, and I do it for 20 years, and I'm retired at 38 with a full pension. Now, that's not what happened, because I only served 8 years, but it's one of those things where you're a high school teenager and I got it all figured out.
Sure. Yeah, well, you know everything. I mean, I think I knew everything when I was 18, and then I've learned ever since I know less and less. So yeah, there you go.
Life,
so, okay.
Life humbles
So
you.
when do you actually report then for training?
Actually, it was funny because October 31st, 2004, I flew into San Diego and met the drill instructors that night, and you know, talk about, in one way, Halloween as a joke, like, you know, what is scary for so many people. Boom, that's what Halloween 2004 was for me.
Okay, and so for people who are not familiar with this kind of thing, so what happens when you first get out there, when you first arrive there at the training base? What happens?
So when we flew there, we were staged at the airport for a little while for a bus to come get us, and I knew it was going to take some time due to, that's part of the disorientation process. A lot of guys I knew that foretold their story, but I was just loving it because I had gone to school at Kent Career Tech Center for aviation maintenance. So being at the airport, I was like, yay, like I love all this. Finally, when the drill instructors came and picked us up, it was a short bus ride to the actual Marine Corps base, maybe 15 minutes. And then you hear that, get off my bus, and the Marines are famous for the yellow footprints. Get online, and they're screaming at you, and okay, and I just kind of like follow the crowd.
Okay, now because so you had been essentially like going to like the Guard or Reserve meetings or whatever before that, while you were
They
waiting.
called it the pool meetings.
Pool meetings, yeah. So that you were meeting and talking to people who had already gone through this, and they had given you some idea of what's going to happen to you.
Right.
So you might have been a little bit better off than some of the other people there.
Definitely.
Okay. And so how long does it take to kind of process you before you start training?
It was about 72 hours. They really keep you up as much as they can for that. That's the first part of weeding out people. You hear kids, oh, I stole a pack of bubble gum from 7-Eleven when I was 8 years old or something, just to confess to things to go home. Oh, I made a mistake and I gotta leave. But like I said, I understood that process, and so it's like, all right, just gotta get through it. And sure enough, eventually we did. We got, you know, rid of our civilian stuff. We got our military issued clothing.
James, don't grab the microphone, please.
We got our heads shaved and all that stuff. So, and we spent about a week in receiving before we got picked up in our unit.
Right.
You're good.
Okay. All right. So now what does your actual training consist of?
Training was 13 weeks long, and they broke it down into 3 phases. The first phase was 4 weeks-ish, and learning the rank structure, learning how to drill. They made us look stupid in our uniform just because, like, that's part of the first hazing process. And then the second phase is up at Hey bud, hang on a second. Oh, you hungry? Yeah. The second phase of that was at Camp Pendleton, where we do field training. The Crucible, we get that's where it's like 54-mile hike over 3 days. They got a big Warriors breakfast afterwards, but all the stuff that you'd learn in the field, just because you could not do that in San Diego.
Mm-hmm.
Weapons training, so we got our rifles and shot. That was fun. The drill instructors kind of lean back on you a little bit. Recruits with live ammunition. But yeah, loved it. It was beautiful. Where it was in San Diego, you've got the Pacific Ocean right there that you woke up to. And really, as long as you embrace the fact that it's a new day, it was a beautiful day, rain or shine, you had things to be thankful for,
Mm-hmm.
which I did. I kept that positive attitude through all the chaos. And then when we finished that, the third phase, the last 4.5 weeks, was back down in San Diego, honing like our drill and getting ready to graduate and focus on what all recruit training was.
Okay. Now, were there some guys who were not adjusting as well as you did?
Definitely. Yeah.
What kinds of things were you seeing, or what problems did they have?
We did have a couple prior service Army guys who had joined and in one way, I've been through this, I know it all, but it was tougher. Physically, we were working out all the time. And then I learned and understand, well, hey, we wake up at this time, but we have an hour before we eat. Therefore, to kill time, they're going to mess with us.
Mm-hmm.
And it's usually for some sort of physical pain. With the exercise, you know, it might be, hey, get 10 recruits on the quarterdeck and do push-ups. Oh, I remember specifically this one kid, his name was Lindsay. He would always kind of try and half do those push-ups until essentially we're done. The drone instructor would call him out. And people, come on, Lindsay, it's just so many more push-ups. Like, just get through it. And everybody's muscles are getting fatigued. And I embraced it. I was laughing. I'm like, don't these guys realize it's not that bad? All we gotta do is just play their game and be like, all right, now it's time for chow. So I took boot camp each chow period at a time.
All right. Now, how many of the people that you started with finished?
There was maybe 65 that I started with, and we ended up with like 55. Not too many dropped out.
Okay.
There was various medical reasons for that some people missed. We did have one kid that in the second phase, I refused to train. Oh, that was so funny when you refused to train and they went after him, and you know, just 3-4 drill instructors screaming and trying to motivate him. He dropped out, but the more you refuse to do anything there, the longer it is on yourself. So it's just a matter of play the games, go through it, unless, you know, obviously something medically happens. And something did happen with me. I did catch pneumonia going through, and that really sucked. But I graduated with my class.
Right.
I did go to the medical, and they're like, listen, you're in essentially the best shape of your life, so just here's some antibiotics and hydrate 10 times even more. They took it a little bit lighter on me the day before graduation and like walking off the everything we do, the showcase. So my lungs had a little bit more of a chance, but luckily I didn't get dropped for that, because that was That was the Wednesday prior to Visitors Thursday. The family was all out
Yeah.
there, so.
Yeah, so you timed that really well. But you
Definitely.
had gotten almost all the way through everything
Mhm.
too, so you wouldn't have had probably to recycle or anything like that. It was
Right.
just that. Okay. So when you enlisted, were you able to request or specify particular training, or were you just going to go where they
So
sent
I
you?
knew I went in on an aviation contract through the Kent County Tech Center. My junior and senior year of high school, I was in the aviation maintenance program. With that, that kind of guaranteed me a slot in aviation. I didn't know specifically what I was going to do, but I knew I wouldn't be infantry. I wouldn't be like legal or admin. I knew anything in aviation. So that could have been from F-18s to Harriers to a parachute rigger, helicopters, as long as it's in the aviation field. That's where they took me. And so I ended up being a CH-46 helicopter airframes mechanic. So I worked on the structures and the hydraulics. Structures is anything from sheet metal fabrication to composite repair.
Now, where do you train to do that?
So after boot camp, I first did, because every Marine's a rifleman, the majority of us go through this, well, all of us go through the School of Infantry first to have that basic advanced infantry school, and that was Awesome, California. After that, I went to Pensacola, Florida in 2005. I was there from March to July of 05. It was like the week before there was a hurricane there. I want to say it was Katrina in 05. And they did get us out. And my next school was the hydraulic school specifically for the CH-46 helicopters in North Carolina.
Okay, so the Pensacola school, that was sort of general aviation
structures.
mechanics? And,
Yep,
yeah.
that was sheet metal, that was composite repair.
Okay. But that could have been with any number of different types of aircraft. Then I go to North Carolina, and then from there. Now, were you off of some part of Camp Lejeune or somewhere
Actually, it was New River.
else? Okay.
So there was Camp Geiger was like the infantry side. New River was the air station portion of that, and so that's where the schoolhouse was for at least my aircraft. And so yeah, that was fun. That was a little over 8 weeks, and then October of 2005. I graduated. Okay, you're ready to go to fleet. So they sent me to San Diego.
All right. Now, for people who don't know, can you describe the CH-46 helicopter?
It's a long airframe, almost looks like a hot dog, but with two rotor blades. Not two rotor blades, two sets of rotor blades. One on the front and one on the back. And they spin in different directions to counteract the torque, where most helicopters you see have a main rotor blade and then one on the tail, and that spins a different way to counteract the torque. So
Okay. So is this used for cargo transportation personnel?
troop transport, cargo, mail. We've used it for fire bucket standby. So a lot of times in California, when it was on fire, we had a special bucket we could hook to the belly of the airframe, and we'd dip the bucket in people's pools if need be to get water, put out fire. Dip it in the ocean, put out the fire. We use it for small, because I believe it's around 4,000 pound lift capacity on our airframe. So light vehicles or artillery or something like that, it could do something like that.
All right. So was this similar to Vietnam era Chinook? Was that the,
Yes,
yeah,
kind of.
yeah.
Hmm.
Okay.
Difference is it's a little bit smaller. The Chinook is considered a heavy lift.
Yeah.
So
Okay, but
I
it's a
couldn't
similar.
say 10,000 pounds, but
Okay,
yeah, just the baby version of
All
that.
right, so it's similar design, but with the double rotors. And so, okay, all right. So you do that. So now you go back off to San Diego, and then are you initially just based on shore, or do you go on to?
Yep, I was stationed at MCS, Marine Corps Air Station Miramar. That was really cool because, well, most people knew the Top Gun movie. I'm like, yay, I'm at what they referred to as Fighter Town, USA, and you know, I was with the helicopters and not the F-18s. It was still just so cool being 18 years old and living in Southern California and a part of so much history. Absolutely loved it. And then I did my first deployment. So I got to my unit in October of 05, and we deployed in February of 06. That was with the Navy out of 32nd Street Naval Station, and went around the world. Went to.
Looks like he's about done.
Are you done? Okay. Okay. We went to a few different countries actually with that. Oh, hang on. Let me burp you. We went to Hawaii, which is neat to experience Pearl Harbor. Marine Corps buddy of mine, but we went to high school together, was stationed there, so I'm like, hey man, pick me up and show me Hawaii. Oh, good job.
Yep.
Then Australia, did some training there, got to see the Great Barrier Reef. But then a big storm came in, so we missed out on liberty there, so they sent us to Singapore. That was a unique experience. From there, we went to off the coast of Africa. Some foreign aid got flown into some countries. Then we went up the Persian Gulf, flew in to Kuwait, and then like the Harriers ran operations from the boat into Iraq and flew back. The helicopters from Kuwait, we flew missions in Iraq and then came back overnight in Kuwait. And then they said at our 6th month, hey, you guys are getting ready to go home, so we were replaced by a different unit.
Okay.
And then we hit Dubai as a Liberty port, and then Thailand, and then once more time Hawaii before coming home.
Okay. So what ship were you
I was on the
traveling on?
USS Peleliu.
Okay. And was that basically an assault ship, or?
It's a small aircraft carrier. We had, I believe, 28 aircraft in total. 12 of my specific aircraft, some CH-53s, which were the heavy lift, some Hueys and Cobras, which were attack support, and then the Harriers. But yeah, it was just enough. It's perfect on. I felt like on that. And
okay. You know, when you're on the Navy ship, what kind of relationship is there between the sailors and the Marines?
overall, there was a pretty good one. So for a while, you know, they talked about like gym hours, blue and green. When can the Navy go in? When can the Marines go in? The Marines, they say, took so much of it because we did have a lot of infantry units with us, and in one way we were just always so busy with flight operations that it was, you were always working as an aircraft mechanic. But generally, the Navy, we had to work well with them due to, like, when you see in the movies and they have the different color shirts, the red shirts are like a crash flight rescue, white jerseys are like quality assurance, the yellow ones are guys that direct the aircraft. So generally we had a pretty good relationship. What factored some things was chow hall hours and your ability to get food. And of course, if you worked the flight deck, you got to cut in front of everybody else. And boy, did that make some people not too happy, but understandably so. Hey, we have a job to do. You don't. So, hey, mister.
Yeah.
Hi.
What is our
Oh,
issue
you
here?
telling your story? And then, but it was interesting. Also, we arrested. We like as a not me part of it, but in our deployment, some Somali pirates.
Okay.
And they were in the ship's brig, which was near the phone center. So for a while, nobody on the ship could make phone calls due to its proximity to the ship's jail. But interesting story that brought about. Yeah, absolutely loved it's the mindset, you know, and you could say, oh, this sucks about anything in life, but if you just embrace, hey, we get the opportunity to see the sunrise and the sunset in the middle of the ocean, and so many people don't, or we get to see the stars out there with no city lights.
Yeah.
It was absolutely beautiful.
Okay.
Hey, mister.
Okay.
Hi. Oh,
Good.
yeah. Hi.
There may be a little bit of editing done on this, but yeah, that's much better, isn't it? All right. So you stayed in Kuwait for 6 months. What was your daily routine like there?
Fix the aircraft and get them out again. There was always some sort of element that the aircraft had to do, whether moving people. Oh, you're trolling. That's all right. Yeah, I worked the night shift, and with working the night shift, I was up round the clock, eating pretty good, breakfast, lunch, dinner, mid-rats. I remember the Girl Scouts somehow got several pallets, probably 10 pallets of Girl Scout cookies over to us. And so between shifts, we were eating all these Girl Scout cookies. And oh yeah, I loved it. I gained weight on deployment.
Okay. Now, were you on a large base or out in the desert somewhere?
Yeah, we were on a large base. And it was interesting. Dirt floors. We had cots. Our AC never worked, and then of course when you work the night shift and you gotta sleep during the day, the greenhouse effect of it just cooking those cans, it woke you up. And so we would always wake up mid like our sleep shift, and take our weapons and go to the movie theater, because they weren't playing movies during the day, but it was just cooler. And so we get just another 2 hours worth of sleep in the movie theater before we had to get ready to go back to work.
All right. Now, did you ever sort of, go into Kuwait City or have any contact with the locals?
No. As far as contact with the locals, they did have some contractors that did our laundry or various services on the base. And so food-wise, they were there to serve meals in the chow hall and stuff like that. So you had a little bit of contact. Some were like trusted people to sell, hey, we made this rug, or we got this rug from whatever, and who wants to buy something? Or back then, DVDs were quite a thing instead of streaming. So who wants this DVD? And it'd be a brand new movie, but it was a pirated DVD. Right. And so we laugh about all the poor quality copyrighted DVDs that you're trying to be sold for $1.
All right.
So yeah.
All right. Now, did you yourself, would you fly on the helicopters, or did you just stay on the ground?
I had for different reasons. There were reasons to take other mechanics. Sometimes because what I was referred to as organizational level maintenance, so we just did everything quick on the spot to get the aircraft going.
Mm-hmm.
But the depot level guys who would completely tear down the aircraft and fix virtually everything, that was out of North Carolina.
Mm-hmm.
So I got the opportunity, based on my experience level. I was, for the airframes division, a quality assurance representative. So they usually took, the pilots, the crew chief, and somebody that was QA for electronics and hydraulics. And so I made trips from California to North Carolina in that aspect, which is fun. It'd be a 3-day trip in a helicopter, but it was fun. We got to stop at various bases. David's Mothin in Arizona. We went to Austin in Texas, and then Alabama, I believe we stopped at one point, or just if aircraft broke down somewhere.
Okay.
Hey, mister.
All right.
It'd be base to base. We did operations in Chancellor Base, Nellis Air Force Base, wherever,
Okay.
El Centro.
Okay. But you didn't fly into Iraq itself at that point?
No, nope. My time in Iraq actually happened after the Marine Corps with the State Department.
Okay. All right. So we've kind of gotten you then through that first state in Kuwait and your first your first cruise, and you kind of get back again. So when do you get back to the States? When does the...
I got back to the States in August of '06.
Okay. And then now, do you spend extended time on shore, or what happens?
I did. So the typical rotation was, I believe, 11 months back, 6 months deployed. And so you're working up, and we actually had a deployment in 2007, and I did the training and the workups for it, but unfortunately, I had sprained my ankle so bad that those ligaments were torn, and MRI proved it, and I was on a surgery list, and we were to go from August '07 to, they figured, February '08, but the doc was like, nope, you're not going due to your torn ligaments. And I was like, I want to go on the deployment. Yeah, but you need surgery. Yeah, but the back and forth argument was, I'm good, like I can run, I'll be fine. What if we're under attack and you can't make it to a bunker? And I was like, I run an 18-minute 3-mile. What if I run too fast and the slow guy, doesn't get hit by shrapnel? So I said no, and I was fighting to go on that deployment, but ultimately a week prior they said, nope, you're not going. And it irked me because they didn't get extended on deployment. They did make it back. 2 weeks after my unit made it back with what would have been my second deployment was my surgery schedule.
Oh.
So I got sent up to HMM 164, which was the training squadron for the CH-46. So like the pilots would do their training in Florida, saying, hey, I'm a pilot, and then they would go to their type model series, which for them was in Camp Pendleton, and then the crew chiefs, that was where they went for their school. So it was an interesting time. I spent from August '07 to February of 2012 up there.
Now, you having sort of finished that particular assignment, what happens to you next?
So it was interesting at the HMM 164, seeing a lot of different people go through the schoolhouse in their own way. I was permanent personnel, fixing aircraft, like we would in the fleet. We didn't deploy, but it did give me the opportunity to go to the school. So I started my associate's degree when I was in, finished that, so it helped in the long run when I got out. I already had so many credits that GI Bill wise, I was able to go on my master's degree and still use some of that. And I still didn't think anything of school at the time, but a buddy of mine who I walked in on, I'm like, what are you doing? He's like, school. I'm like, school? He was studying stuff in aviation. I'm like, this is easy. This is college. We already know this.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah. Well, as an adult, you get to study what you want. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. So I looked into it and followed his footsteps. Of course, the first 2 years is basics of getting back into your math, your science, your English for the traditional schooling.
Right.
And it was funny because with all that, the math and the English and whatnot, you're like, this is almost like high school all over again.
Yeah.
But why don't they teach us that and just us get our college started? But yeah, so I got that out of the way, and then I loved it. I was taking they considered 2 classes full time. I was taking 5 because I just was loving school, and it made a big difference when 23 years old versus 18. And the experiences I had from the military and being in a combat theater and whatnot, so it gave me more focus on your school rather than in the bars and whatnot. So yeah, love that.
Okay.
It was interesting in the fact that my specific unit had some various challenges. I remember a good friend of mine, he unfortunately was murdered in that unit. Him and his wife, they'd been married for 45 days, and the tragedy. And so going through I was actually running the night shift then, and my boss on days for 1 week of training, hey, nobody's gonna miss you, go check on your buddy. Okay, I'm thinking, hey, he just overslept, it's Southern California, I get to ride the Harley, take the morning off, and I'm getting paid for it. Just, this positive mental attitude on life. And we find out what really happened, and of course a year or two of pre-trial stuff before the state went forward with the charges, and that took several years to get through. And I gave a victim's impact statement at the sentencing so there's 4 that were convicted of it, and from what I know now, they're in prison serving. 3 got the death penalty and 1 got life without parole. But yeah, a lot of interesting things in life. A lot of kids actually got mixed up with their what's called drug pops. We had a whole legal platoon, just kids wanting to get out. That's one way to have done it.
Okay, so if you get caught using drugs, then you're gone.
Yep. And young kids still in their schoolhouse. So Pensacola was our big thing of like, hey, you're you're 18, 19. So many kids get in trouble for underage drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Well, the kids that were the crew chiefs, still in the school, so still bounced around, still young. They still have that. I'm so close to have been in high school. They get that mentality. Even though you're a Marine, you go through training, it's kind of there. So, yeah, it was just interesting, all the other things that life experience brought that I didn't experience before, never would have anticipated, on top of, like, I remember there was another incident, February 7th, 2007, a sister helicopter squadron, they were over a part of some that replaced us in theater, and they were shot down with a surface-to-air missile. And when you watch the video of what had happened, we watched on government computers, and unfortunately all 7 on that crew had been killed.
Mm-hmm.
So all these experiences that civilians can't understand,
Mm-hmm.
or not even civilians, but most people, I'd say at my age, have no clue what it's like to watch your friends have
Mm-hmm.
been killed in combat. So, but I did that collectively in the Marine Corps for 8 years.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it was a 5-year contract, and at the end of my 5, I didn't know exactly what I was going to do, but staying in the Marine Corps was at least a safety net.
Yeah.
Hey, I still have insurance, I still have a roof over my head and the chow hall, so food in my belly, a paycheck. So I at least did that for 1 more. And then I had a lot of friends that when they did get out, well, hey, this is what I did with State Department and government contracting, and actually everything in the military is a complete hand-me-down. So I'm like, what's lower than the Marine Corps?
Mm-hmm.
The State Department.
Okay.
They have the best chow halls, but as far as some of the equipment, they were getting our aircraft, which many of our aircraft were, the data plate said they were from 1960s. So they flew in Vietnam, and we were using them to, that day, Iraq, Afghanistan, all over the world, and then the State Department's getting them. So I remember the State Department recruiters saying, hey, come on board, you're at the end of your 2nd enlistment. Why? 12 more years, I'm retired.
Mm-hmm.
What benefits would you guys have? The gentleman goes, well, you get 30 days vacation in the Marine Corps, or 30 days leave.
Mm-hmm.
We'll give you 90. And then, hey, looking at, the pay scale, as a sergeant, you're about $27,000 a year at the time, something like that. Well, because my contract was going to be Afghanistan, we're going to pay you essentially $130,000. I'm like, oh my goodness,
Mm-hmm.
you're offering this, and I hadn't finished my degrees. I thought at the time you just had to have that college degree to get a $100,000 a year job, and I'm like, I'll take it.
Mm-hmm.
So I said to myself, okay, well, if I invest this, pay increase conservatively, that'll ramp up the not learning curve, but the working curve.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I won't have to do something specifically till I'm 65. I could be done it
Mm-hmm.
still in the 38 age range, which I laugh now because I'm 39.
Yeah.
But yeah, another humbling experience.
Okay. Now, I think most people really wouldn't expect the State Department to even have helicopters.
Yeah, they actually have a fleet of 1,700 aircraft, which I did not know about,
Yeah.
but it makes sense. So for around the world, at all the various embassies, depending on the country. You'd fly into, we'll just take Iraq for an example. You'd fly in the Baghdad International, and then he'd have to get to the embassy. Well, Iraq being so dangerous, we would have a crew that worked actually at the airport. We were on kind of like a bastard spot of the airport that nobody knows, you know, you're just way off there. But our helipad would then fly to the embassy helipad in the city. And there's so many countries where that's important because of safety, security. The State Department had used their aircraft for either mail or flying the ambassadors around. There's a division called INLA, International Narcotics and Law Enforcement. So for a little while, I was a part of that. We would use our aircraft for whatever surveillance. Also a QRF, Quick Reaction Force. It was 2012 was the Ambassador Stevens incident in Libya. Well, in 2015, I was there in Cyprus, a little island in the Mediterranean north of Egypt. But because of our helicopters, we could go from, I want to say, Libya, Tunisia, Egypt, Gaza, Lebanon, Israel, Turkey, and Greece. So if anything had happened, they could get people out faster and hopefully without incident. That was interesting because I worked on a British base. The only other Americans that were there were an Air Force unit with a U-2. And so that was neat too. We spent Thanksgiving 2015 there, and so you got this other deployed family, and you're having turkey and got to see the U-2. I'm like, oh my goodness, this aircraft is old, from the 50s, but they said, yeah, it's still around because of Geneva Convention rule or something like that. And because I thought, performance-wise, why not the Blackbird? And I understood some of the capabilities of the leaking fuel tanks on the Blackbird, or the amount of man hours it took. I mean, our specific aircraft, it was over 15 man hours of maintenance per one flight hour. But yeah, it was so neat, all the things that I got to do, either with the State Department or for a while. At the time, it's called the Department of Defense. So I went with them, and having my A&P through the FAA, mechanic certificate, saying you have enough knowledge to work on any platform of aviation. So with that, the Army's aircraft that were over there, military has been basically to withdraw the troops, so to speak. We're gonna send civilian contractors over. So they did their time in the military, but they're not for the Department of Defense as a troop. They're there as a civilian.
Right.
So for public display, oh, we've been withdrawn. Well, the American presence was still there. And having that A&P, I got to work on the Army Chinooks. I got to work on the OH-58, the Apache, and the Blackhawks as well. So that was neat.
All right.
I did that in Afghanistan.
Okay, so when were you in Afghanistan?
2014, June of 14 through September of 15.
Okay, and were you based near Kabul, or were you somewhere else?
Actually at Bagram Air Force Base.
Bagram, okay, big base, yeah.
And then I was there for 5-6 months. And then I got sent down to Kandahar, so southern Afghanistan. That was neat. There's a whole lot of other countries that had worked with the military units together, and the Canadians put a hockey rink there. It wasn't an ice rink. Everybody, had, because you could fly packages over, so people would have their roller skates and, play hockey along the boardwalk. The boardwalk, they had a couple restaurants here and there, and it was interesting.
All right. And then did you? When were you in Iraq? Or did you?
That was 2015 to 2017.
Okay.
I remember leaving. I left July 31st, 2017. I left Iraq. Interesting because I flew from Baghdad to Turkey, from Turkey back into the United States. And it was memorable because I got held up due to all the vehicles you use are multi-purpose vehicles. I was able to clear Iraq okay, but in Turkey they did the swipe your bag with explosives residue, and they're like, oh, hey, there's some sort of gunpowder residue on his bag. And I had like a priority boarding, so I should have been first. And on the flight to the States, I'm being held up, and everybody's watching me, and they're like, what's going on with this guy?
Yeah.
And they actually called the Turkish police in, and they looked at my passport and the story. They looked at, well, he's done this every 3 months, because that's what it was. Every 90 days we worked, we got 30 days off. Oh, hang on.
So what is our problem here, huh?
Here you go.
Here.
Hi, you faker. You just posing for the camera? Yeah. So, they looked at my computer and they're like, well, take everything out of your bag. My laptop was in it, and it had dents and dings and screws missing, and I was like, well, this computer was like almost 10 years old. And they're like, well, the computer checks clean, your story checks out, okay, go ahead and go. But being that last passenger on the plane, you saw some concerned faces. I'm like, no, we're good. But yeah, it was interesting then, because after I got back to the States, I had some individuals with Homeland Security. Oh, we want to talk to you.
Okay.
And then my next 6 flights, every time I went somewhere domestically, hey, you got to go through advanced security. I'm like, I literally am on the global entry pass. Like, I shouldn't have all this. So I called the number in Washington, D.C. I'm like, you guys better take me off whatever list I'm on, because I'm a patriot, and all I did was serve my country.
Right.
And I haven't had a problem since. But yeah, it definitely made for an interesting story, and it's been since 2019 since I've worked in any government capacity for the.
All right.
You.
Now, when you were in Iraq, do you know much about what the situation was there in terms of what were American forces doing or not? 'Cause that was late enough. That we had officially left Iraq, at least for a while. Although I guess with ISIS we had come back again. But were you? So were you aware of what the larger political situation was, or what American forces were doing at the time?
A little bit. I almost didn't care to a degree of what we were doing because, well, the checks cleared, and they were good for us. They were. It was almost $10,000 a month for Iraq, Afghanistan, but $3,000 was doing our actual job, and then the rest was hazardous duty.
Right.
Hey, due to how dangerous it was. And the living conditions. We got a stipend.
So you're so as far as you were concerned, in these places, you mostly just focused on what your job was rather than what the larger situation was.
Right.
And I mean, did you have any sense in either place when you were there, Iraq or Afghanistan, that we were either ramping up what we were doing, or we were changing what we were doing, or was it always just the same for you?
It was virtually the same. We, with that ramp, we saw more troops go out and more civilian contractors come in. But other than that,
okay. And then did you have much contact either with Iraqis or Afghans while you were out there?
we had more in Iraq to a degree because, trust employees with the State Department. And then when you're working on the airport, same thing. Like sometimes you'd have intertwined with the locals. That did happen in Afghanistan too. They had locals selling trinkets and all sorts of stuff. But yeah, not too much as far as actual getting outside the wire. That was different, dangerous. I remember that, you'd see the infantry guys go out in convoys, and one specific incident, there was a truck that had hit they anticipated it to be a 500-pound bomb buried in the road, and the MRAP that these guys went out in, everybody survived, but bad head concussions. That was a difficult night in the chow hall, because anytime they're gonna blow up ordnance that they found, they'd warn us, hey, there's this and this didn't happen, and the amount of smoke that billowed. Rumor, because I didn't see it physically myself, was one of the tires from that truck was found more than a football field away, but understandably so with that.
Yeah.
Afghanistan was humbling in a way due to a friend. He was a dog handler in the Marine Corps, but we lived in the same apartment complex, and he goes on a deployment, and oh man, I'm so excited for you. I loved deploying. It was just so cool to be in other countries and experience the culture, and fortunately he got killed, and so when I went to Afghanistan, it was like, hey, and I mean, I obviously talked about him in the interview. I remember him. I remember, the laughs we had and shared, and so I sent his wife a message. I said, hey, you know what, I just want you to know I'm thinking about Chad right now. And she was responding like, well, I'm glad. I miss him too, and knowing that somebody's remembering him still keeps him around, and a lot of the
well, you get to edit it. So all right, okay. So you're just talking about, so you would, even though it's like 18 years after this happened.
Yeah, I remember I was at a specific event on behalf of an American Legion convention, and I arrived because of the drive 2 hours early before the convention started, and I was reflecting. I'm like, oh, this is the 18-year anniversary, and I'm sitting in my truck, and I'm not boohoo crying, but I got teary-eyed. And then I was thinking about several different buddies of mine, and I said, you know what? Let me reach out to my friend's mom, and I sent pictures of my son. She lost her son, and I was hesitant before about, do I send pictures and talk about my son, and it wasn't I now have a son and you don't kind of thing, but how do some people react differently, and genuinely in my heart it hurt because I miss her kid.
Mm-hmm.
I miss my friend, my brother. But yeah, I sent a message out, and she's like, Eric, I'm so happy for you. Thank you for sharing pictures of your son and telling me about his life, and thank you for still remembering my son and honoring his life. And it's just been a big part of, you know, who I've done and reached out. You know, some with the 22 a day aren't here for that reason, and it's just, hey, how can we
So the
continue to do
22
better?
a day, what do you mean by that?
Veterans that commit suicide
Right.
versus things they've seen or
Mm-hmm.
whatever it may be. They feel they have no hope, and so unfortunately, due to circumstances, I've had friends that have lost that battle with their own demons, and do what you can to restore hope. And
Right.
hey, I'm here, no matter what you're going through. A fist bump, tell me about it. I'd rather, you know, figure it out with you, and we go through it together.
Okay. Now, I'm going to want to talk about what you've done since leaving the Defense Department stuff, but before we do that, if you think back over your time, either officially in the Marines or doing State Department, Department of Defense, or contractor work afterward, are there other particular incidents or things that you want to bring into the story that you haven't covered yet? You may think of them later, but that's...
Right. There's just been, you know, so many as far as experiences. You know, we could talk all day on different types of experiences you've gone through where, you know, being that new guy who is completely naive to everything, and you grow up so fast within the military itself, because as you progress in rank, okay, now you're in charge of people, and you're teaching them and stuff like that. So it's just it's funny, your mind flashes through so many times, and the memories, the faces, your friends, and the scenarios. But it's like, which one do you pull out? Because there's so many that were impactful in their own ways. But I think some of the biggest ones as far as loss, we did cover. Fun-wise, I remember, well, on the deployment, the ship, we had like they called it a steel beach, so to kind of alleviate the stress of everything. We had a big barbecue, and people had like a little inflatable pool out there, and you know, those stories you see of like the movie McHale's Navy. Hey, we had that for a day. Thailand, you know, fun-wise, we rode on an elephant through the jungle. That was pretty cool. I had a beer, and I dropped the beer, and the elephant with his trunk handed it right back up to me. One thing that was really impactful, 2005, when I get orders from the schoolhouse, okay, I'm going to my fleet unit. It's October 05. Marine Corps buddy of mine, he was F-18s. He's already on Miramar because he got through his schoolhouse quicker. I get there, hey man, put your dress blues on. No, I just got here, I've been traveling. No. Put your dress blues on, I'll pick you up in an hour. No, like, it's not squared away, my uniform's not ready. I'll be there in like 30 minutes. Put your uniform on. No. Told you, no. So I put my uniform on, and we go down, and we were at the ballpark for they needed Marine volunteers and Navy volunteers, and we were actually on the field, while those huge American flags with the stadium and everybody is singing the national anthem, and that was just amazing. The echo of the national anthem from the floor, like, it wasn't boohoo crying, but it did bring these just overwhelming amount of joy and pride to you. Another significant impact, actually, when I got out of the Marine Corps in 2012, so I, like I said, got recruited from the State Department, waiting on my background check to go through, and it sucked. It took 9 months. There was a government shutdown. It delayed security clearances and whatnot. But in going through the first couple months of getting out of the Marines, there was a period of I lost my purpose. I was going to school, but it was different because you weren't there, you weren't on the base, you weren't around your brothers, and so you felt this loneliness. And I remember I got pulled over by a police officer who I was doing ridiculous amount of speed over. Plead the fifth on how fast I was going, but he could tell something was wrong, and said, "Hey, you know what? You literally should be going to jail right now." But, and he never served in the military, but he said the VA is right down the road. So it was 2 choices: jail, VA. So he followed me to the VA. Didn't go in, just left that discretion to me, and I go into the VA. Hey, I apparently need to talk about some things. And the VA was like, "Well, you're not enrolled in our system. We can't talk to you." What do you mean? I mean, there was just so much that I had compartmentalized, I had bottled up. I'd seen mental health for a little bit of some of the things, but it wasn't like a good enough job, so to speak. And then when you get out and everything you've gone through, not only from life before your childhood, teenage years, military, it just builds up. And what do you mean you guys can't help me? You're the VA. You're supposed to have, well, we can't. Not until you go through the system. And I was just, at that point, boo-hoo crying. Well, I contacted a buddy of mine who worked at Camp Pendleton as a civilian contractor, but he had so much seniority and flexibility that he could take some time off. So he came to the VA and listened to me. They had a little smoke pit, and at the time I had a pack of cigarettes and chain smoked probably all 20 or as close to 18 maybe. Just venting to him about everything, like, I'm not a Marine anymore. And I laugh about it now. But yeah, those tears were just raw, pure emotion of getting it all out. He just listened. Mostly, yep, okay. Didn't put his 2 cents, didn't advise, just listened. And when I was done, he's like, "You done?" Remember specifically, "You done?" Yeah. Good. Let's go get some chicken wings. So we went to this place called Rookies, which is a sports bar, almost like a Hooters theme, but the waitresses wore like a referee outfit. So beautiful women, chicken wings, you can't get any better. So yeah, it felt a lot better. When you go to get out of the military, they do a class structured towards transitioning. And it's mostly career focused. Well, you do a mock interview, you do a resume, professionals come in to say about job training, but it's a very hard part of, well, you're getting out, and then it's not this light switch, just turn all this emotion, this aggression, this anything you have inside off. So yeah, that was a major, I guess, thing to bring up and reflect on, because that really humbled me. Even to this day, I've told my buddy, his name's Sylvester, his story of what he did for me back then to a lot of other people. Say, hey, I can relate. Getting out is not easy. Finding that purpose, nobody's going to say, this is what you're going to do. This is the infrastructure, because you're institutionalized as a kid in school. Hey, you go to school, put your bag in this little cubby or whatever. Same thing, military's an installation where that happens, where you go to work and instead of pulling out your toys like in kindergarten, well, your toys are now your tools because you're working on the aircraft, and then you go home in the day, okay, put your toys away. And so yeah, there's just so much of, there's the world and I don't know what to do, or I haven't been coached of how to behave. And yeah, that's something significant to where with James, I will be proud if he wants to go into the military. Either branch, some parents or some kids are, well, my dad did this, so I'm doing the opposite. Regardless, my message to him is, always that I love him and I want the best for him, as most parents do. But in trying to help him succeed, trying to help anybody succeed is, hey, what are the takeaway from my experiences? And so how can I relate overcoming these difficulties that I experienced?
Okay. Now, you're talking about when you actually get out of the military, so they give you a transition class, but that didn't really do much for mental health?
No, not at all.
And that's kind of interesting, because by then, we've been in Iraq and Afghanistan and all this kind of thing. I mean, I know that the combat veterans and so forth were offered various levels of counseling and things, but you maybe don't qualify because you were a helicopter mechanic?
No,
or?
I mean, I qualified, and like I said, there's times where I had gone in and seen mental health, and they're like, well, you're adjusting to things. You're adjusting to, so like with, being pulled off that 07 deployment, that hurt. Hey, no, my brothers are going to combat. Why are you sidelining me? You're sidelining me for a BS reason, and my surgery date's scheduled after we get back. Come on. Well, what if we get extended? And so, that was a little bit of a hit to, my ego, I guess, in some way. And then going to that unit where it was just I don't want to say bad unit. I mean, it was a learning experience, but yeah, it was a pretty toxic environment. I mean, when you have 20-something Marines getting in trouble for popping on drugs, we had the friend of mine, he not only was he murdered, but upon the investigation, he was murdered by 3 people in our unit. 2 were specifically in my shop that they worked the day shift. So we were all blindsided of what happened. And the morning of that murder, they showed up to work like nothing happened. What the heck?
Yeah.
Talk about the range of emotions from anger to betrayal to flabbergasted, like how, like, this doesn't happen. And when you're in your early 20s of life, nothing really prepares you for that. Or it's not like boot camp where, hey, they're gonna scream at you and yell and you just got to get through it. You're all of a sudden dealing with different real world scenarios that there's no training for.
Right.
So suicides, I remember there's about 8 suicide attempts when I was in. Somebody in boot camp, so my first 3 months, made an attempt on their life. My 4th month in the Marine Corps, an individual had to make a head call, use the bathroom. Okay. Well, the rules at the time were one in the bathroom at a time, and I did break that rule because a second Marine, I gotta go to the bathroom. Well, stand by, so-and-so's going, give it a few minutes. Okay, well, after a few minutes, this guy's doing the pee-pee dance. I'm like, I'll take an ass chewing. I'm not gonna let a grown man pee his pants for what I thought was ridiculous of a rule at the time. He comes back, hey, so-and-so, he's got a knife in his arm. Holy crap. So, sure enough, yep, had to pull a knife out of this kid's arm and apply a sweatshirt as a tourniquet. And it was February of '05 for that. And, when you're young kids, I'm going to spend the world with the person they love. And so that's kind of, you hear about Dear John letters. So his girlfriend left, and it's the end of the world. And so, yeah, just the cycle of what all happened in that specific incident. I was told, well, you have a relationship with the kid. Not really, we just met like 2 days ago. But doesn't matter, he's a part of your unit. Go. So I was in that ambulance ride and spent all that time at the hospital and whatnot with him, and understood what had happened. But man, again, it's nobody tells you. They don't teach you this in boot camp about the mental health and how they're processing things. They're trying to do a little bit more and talking about suicide in the military, but yeah, all through getting out, there's and I hope, because I got out in 2012, it's 2025 now, so in that period, I hope it's gotten better, but I don't know.
Was doing the work for State Department, Department of Defense, was that for you kind of a helpful transition? You sort of
Very much so. It was therapeutic because I was essentially doing the same job. I was with my brothers and sisters again. Our mission, I had purpose, but less BS as far as which every Marine's a rifleman, so every year essentially you had to be on the range and shoot. Well, that took 2 weeks out of the year for getting your rifle call. You had to swim qual, you had to do the gas chamber and your PFTs, and so with your physical fitness test, that takes time out of working on the aircraft. And so I was like, you know what, like, this is ridiculous. I'm here to work on the aircraft more, so like, come on, let's be focused on that. And the PME, the professional military education, that, in going up in ranks, that have schools how to be a corporal. You gotta go to corporal's course, which taught you more about drill and sword manual and whatnot, and there's sergeant's course. Now, I never went to those because it was, hey, we have pamphlets and you can do these packets and submit them, or you can actually go to the course. Well, I didn't go to the course because I was so busy with my job. I did all the packets, and I did that through the staff NCO series, but I got yelled at by higher ups. Why didn't you go? How is it that you made it to the rank of sergeant? You've never done these classes. Well, one or the other. I did the one that was convenient so I could work on the aircraft. We had plenty of Marines that, due to the fact that they were married, well, my wife this, my wife that, or some sort of family obligation, they couldn't. Being single, not married, no kids, I was this dream of, hey, good, we can send Eric.
Yeah.
And I loved it. Oh, air show here? Great, I get to go with that crew. Oh, this aircraft needs to go across country for overhauled maintenance? Great. it got to go.
Mm-hmm.
Is all this travel on the government's dollar. So yeah.
Okay. Now, when did you finish up working for the government?
2019. I was actually working a Department of Defense contract in that time Honduras, and I'd fallen off one of the aircraft. Coming out of the aircraft, I had all these tools, and just the steps down slipped and tore some ligaments in my ankle. With that, I had to have surgery, and so I got flown from Honduras back to the States, and hey, you're gonna need this surgery. Could have stayed down there, but my medical Spanish wasn't good enough, so I said no, bring me back to the States. I had trust and confidence in the doctors down there, but it's also easier to not Google interpret everything, or it could have been a learning experience, but send me home. And so when I came home, 2019, as we know, was the big year of COVID. So I had my surgery, but with everything COVID-wise going on, I never went back to contracting. That was my hope. Shortly after that, Ukraine started being a big deal. There was a while with Israel. I thought, hey, maybe I could go, but nope. It was all these rules and restrictions with that I ended up staying back in Grand Rapids, which is a blessing. My grandparents are getting older, so luckily I have both sets of grandparents still. So, all right, well, I guess we can't fix planes anymore because the Grand Rapids airport's so small, and not wanting to relocate, what do? So I became a automotive mechanic apprentice, and then one day going into work, I got hit by a commercial truck. We're at a standstill on the highway for another accident, and young driver not paying too much attention. Actually, it was almost 3 years to the date. It was October 18th, 2022. With this accident, the commercial truck hit a SUV, a truck, my truck, pushed me into an SUV, and then another SUV. And as the cars cramped like an accordion, I also ricocheted off the wall divider between the north and southbound lane.
Wow.
Well, I did have a lot that I went through. I mean, adrenaline, back as a first responder, I was terrified because I thought, uh-oh, did I do something and hit that car? Did I injure or kill somebody? But in getting out and assessing the situation, okay, then the first responders came, and I had, after everything calmed down, I mean, I went to the emergency room for some things, but they send you out so fast as far as immediate life, and I didn't have any bones protruding or anything like that, so I just had to let the adrenaline wear off and see what the injuries ended up being. Well, as a result, I had 8 surgeries for various ankle, wrists when the airbags deployed, 5 back surgeries, 3 months worth of speech therapy and to help with talking and my memory. In that process, I was helping other veterans as they, whatever it may be, with VA, because at that point, you know, I'd understood the system and other veterans going through it. Hey, I get it. Let me hand walk you through, like that buddy of mine did. And then it was wonderful helping other veterans, but it was taxing on my time and finances because, okay, well, if I drive somebody to their appointment, so I was, well, can I use any of this as deductions? Look at the tax codes and whatnot. I said, no, I really can't unless I have like a nonprofit organization. So I got with some buddies, we need to do this. We need the help. There's so many veterans that need help. We've gone through with COVID and the shutdown. The VA was like, yeah, we're stopping group therapies. So kind of organized a support group for those vets. And so, yeah, May 2nd, 2024, we filed our articles of incorporation. And a couple weeks ago, we got our tax letter from the federal government saying, hey, you're federally tax exempt. Yay! So my organization is the Veteran Enrichment Task Force Services, an acronym of VETS because it's who we are.
Right on your shirt there, yes.
Yep, what we do, and we focus on the mental health care side, and it's not we focus on like, well, you got PTSD or you got anger, depression, how do we treat those? Because I've been studying psychology, and that's not what I want to do. I'm going to school for the background in it now, but what that does is just give me more tools when I talk to people, not just people but myself. Hey, if I'm going through a bad day, because even though I have a lot of formal education on mental health and the brain and how everything's working with, oh, I feel bad, why am I at a low versus the high, and I know to embrace it. And I don't want to, part of me wants to say, I don't care what your diagnosis is. I do. I care that you're going through something, but it's not, what percent of what's bothering you is anger or depression or anxiety or the adjustment or the PTSD. As humans, we have good days and bad days, so with that, let's talk about the good stresses, the bad stresses. Let's embrace the suck, because without knowing how bad things can be, we can't truly appreciate the good things that we've been blessed with in our life. So
what does your organization actually do in terms of actual events, functions, services? What are you doing?
Well, we've had support groups locally. When the VA decided to quit their program, that was June of 2019, and we organized a support group from June of 2019.
Well, it's probably 2020 if that was a COVID thing. COVID's 2020, but yeah.
Right. But they were talking about shutting down the program at the Wyoming VA health facility. Some bean counter was like, hey, we looked at the results, and for the last 6 years, so many of you vets have been coming. And now I didn't have 6 years worth of history as a tail end of that. But the director was like, you guys should be over PTSD by now. And it hurt, because it's like, if you understand things, you're not truly over PTSD. Sure, you have the understanding of how to cope, but like, as we're being supported by the chair, the support groups are one thing people do. That's one leg. The grounding techniques, the positive mantras you might tell yourself, the other coping mechanisms that are healthy are the different things that not only support you, but it's wonderful to have an older vet there. Due to us young guys, it'd be 3-4 weeks or longer before opening up, here's my story. Well, when you finally embrace that, I'm in a safe zone to where I can talk about these things with people, and they're not necessarily going to judge me, or I can say this happened on deployment and I'm not going to be charged because something with the UCMJ. Example, somebody died. They were on a helicopter and towed out on a cable, looked like Superman. That was cool. Well, until the harness slipped off and he died. Pure accident, but it shouldn't have happened that way. So, you know, if you're like, hey, we did so many things, and this took place, well, the fear factor, what am I going to be charged with? And depending on people's era, World War II guys, Korea, Vietnam vets will tell you their stories, and it's like, man, understandable. That was probably a war crime. But you can keep their secrets because you've been there, you understand, you're not judging, and they're still living with what happened.
Yeah.
So by them sharing some of their stories encourages us to say, yeah, this is what really is eating at me. And you vent about it, you get it out, and you're still okay to a degree. You're a little bit better. So, yeah, we took over kind of what the Wyoming VA was doing with their support groups. And we've had like Talons Out. It's a division of the honor flights. So we've worked with them. I've been on 2 honor flights to D.C. where I'm a guardian is what they call it, to take a veteran around and they see different war memorials, and that's healing in its way. But somebody has to take the wheelchair off the bus, push the veteran around, and put the wheelchair back on the bus, or get the lunches out, and a lot of behind the scenes stuff. So yeah, I've done that. The air shows, we've been out, have a little booth, you know, hey, we're vets, this is who we are, and what we try to do is anything for veterans. It was a struggle. I do have a service-connected disability, couple actually, but it was a process. Luckily, being a helicopter mechanic, and we're always in the pubs for, I did this right per the manufacturer in case there was a crash and it came down on you. Nope, here's where I did my maintenance. Well, the disability manual, same thing. Hey, per this injury, this is how you're supposed to play ball. Cross-reference, and most of the time I find that doesn't happen, but it's the attention to detail. I hear about a vet going through a struggle. Hey, let me help guide you in this direction. It took 10 years of fighting for my ratings to go through, and I did have to see a federal law judge to say, hey, here's where the system went wrong, and unfortunately why we're here. And the judge was like, holy cow, I apologize this happened to you. Now, after embracing all that suck, I mean, it was, you're turning me away again? Like, I never thought I'd boo-hoo cry over the VA, but yeah, it was an impact, especially during COVID. As an aircraft mechanic, and I'm not working because nobody's flying, and then because I don't have these, what am I going to do? I'm afraid I'm going to lose the house. And you just keep telling me, we can't help you, we can't help you. Oh, there's a process. In going through all of that, I now can sympathize with vets and say, okay, let me fight for you. So now one thing I'm trying to do is become an individually accredited service officer. So it has the weight of, I know the system of the process, let me help you because of this injustice was done, or not necessarily do it all myself, but these people, they do it professionally. If for some reason there's some miscommunication or whatever, I can help mentor that process. Other things that we've been a part of with the city is they do the parades for Memorial Day and 4th of July and Veterans Day. So, hey, let's get vets together and be part of the parades. Or Grand Rapids is good for the arts. I mean, we just went through Art Prize and healing of the arts, or arts and healing, or something like that. I know I'm saying it wrong, but this group said, hey, we're looking for veterans that want to share their story through painting.
Right.
Some do it through music. I'm musically like horrible at anything. I cannot hold a beat, whatever, to save my life. I can't draw to save my life, but I did a painting, and it was there telling this. It was a self-reflection piece. So what it was the American flag, not scaled to size, but generically you're like, well, that's supposed to be the American flag. And then I drew scars, or like stitches of all that, because I've been wounded, and even though to a degree there's healing, they're still there. And then I drew a silhouette of a baby, and the reflection of the baby was a warrior. Even though I was a mechanic, to make it feel like it's that warrior, he was holding a rifle, which is fine because all Marines are riflemen. Mm-hmm. Then I drew a silhouette of the warrior, and then the reflection side of it was the same thing, the warrior. And then fast forward, I have an old man in a wheelchair, but the reflection is the warrior holding the gun in the same position, and then a tombstone with a reflection of the warrior. So it's kind of one of those, like, as an infant, my childhood, teen experiences, like I called to the military. Mm-hmm. So that just, it was always in me.
Yeah.
And what I want to leave to my son or any future family, just anybody, like, that's the reflection. This is my story, is that warrior will still be in me, even though I'm not active duty and serving. I am serving in a different capacity. Mm-hmm. We all, as the military, believe, hey, we believe in a cause greater than ourselves, and we're always going to be self-serving to that cause. And so that's kind of what I thought in my reflection piece, and then what I continue to aspire to do with our organization. And however that might grow. We've been a part of, hey, there's, different organizations that have all over the state retreats for camping. Mm-hmm. And the last 2 years we've helped organize 20 veterans to go on a camping trip. Or a 3-day thing in Luther, Michigan in May. We did that. The lady who runs it, she's supposed to do a September retreat as well, but unfortunately she was diagnosed with medical condition and is going through some chemo. And I said, hey, I did this before with your retreat. Would you like me to step in? Well, too soon. We didn't, mm-hmm. We weren't sure about things. We canceled the date. Maybe if I'm still going through it in May of next year, we can liaison, mm-hmm. and our organizations can work together. Beautiful, because it's healing for these vets. We're out in nature on 600 acres and a lake and cabins, and it's not necessarily kumbaya and roast marshmallows, right. But yeah, you get to the thick of it. It's not just an hour and a half PTSD support group, it's a 72-hour one from Iraq, Afghanistan, so OIF vets, mm-hmm. to World War II guys, yeah. that are there. And when you have 80 years worth of combat experience, even non-combat vets, I don't say that to discredit those that didn't deploy. That's a big one too that really hurts to the core on so many people's hearts, that I was stateside.
Yeah, the survivor guilt.
You still
things,
have
yeah.
that. Yep, survivor's guilt in a whole different way. Mm-hmm. But yeah, so what more can we have? I recently bought a 32-foot boat, and we want to take vets out and do like a therapeutic, so it's not a support group at the bakery every week, but can we have a support group on the water and go fishing? I want to expand to help with the homelessness situation. There's about 3,000 homeless in vets in Michigan right now. Hey, can we acquire land at the cheapest way to try and do things? Because camping is beautiful. We in the military understand camping and slept on dirt floors. Well, 7 months out of the year we can kind of camp in Michigan, so can I get land and set it up that this is a veteran-based campground until funds come in, and can we put a rec center for a chow hall or permanent bathroom structure. The dreams, the ideas, they're, hey, we could do this and expand. And the thing that impacts veterans the most, the mental health and the homelessness, can we get there? We're in the infant stages with being around for a year and a half as an organization, but it is us veterans that are doing more for taking care of each other than the system itself. So we try to bridge the gap, and with a new lady director at the VA now, hey Eric, you know what, how can we instill the trust back in veterans? Like, she knows my story and how I've been turned down by the VA, and it's that attitude. Okay, well, I understand why in one way they couldn't help me, but there's a better approach to, no, we can't help you. Can you help bring vets back to the VA system? And, can you advocate for the vets and how to change the system? Well, we can sure try. So, yeah.
So the government's kind of a large, blunt instrument, and what you're doing is kind of mediating between them and getting down kind of to the ground level. Because having talked to many veterans who dealt with the VA and sometimes had issues, it's like if you get in, or then they recognize you or something, they can do a lot of very good things for you. The problem sometimes is getting them to see that. And how do you get the people connected in the right way? And you're in a position to help do exactly that.
Well, education is definitely a big one. So I got my associates in professional aeronautics, my bachelor's in professional aeronautics. I got a master's in leadership. I got a certificate, graduate certificate in finance, and then in studying at a doctoral level, it's going to be a certificate in psychology. Not enough to go through and become a psychologist and say, hey, you know what, I'm seeing these as a 9 to 5. Here's my couch to talk to me about things. But boy, I'm understanding at the doctoral level of things, quantifying the problems that you see and the research to advocate, here's why we need change, and to quantify the mental health of the veterans and how they get out, or when they get out, having that experience served and then being out. Can we somehow advocate something with Congress to say, hey, let's partner and have a better transition? On the disability side of things, there is, well, my job as an aircraft mechanic, I'm exposed to different toxic chemicals than, say, maybe somebody in admin does, because their admin might be away from an air base and not exposed to jet fuel and hydraulic fluid and whatnot. So can we say, hey, it's easier to say so-and-so had this job, they have these chemicals cause cancer, therefore if we see these illnesses come up later on behalf of so-and-so, it's easier to say, okay, we've taken ownership, we accept it. let's get the treatment required rather than, hey, forget you because you did your service. And it, there's a lot of people going through Agent Orange, Vietnam veterans now. Years later, they're having their problems, and oh, I gotta prove that I was around or exposed. And I mean, to a degree, the admin guys, hey, they got to get from A to B to C to D via our aircraft, and short-term exposure could be enough depending on somebody's biology. Oh, it touched my skin, and because it's porous, it got in this.
And it took a very long time to get to a point where a lot of those people could get, even get Agent Orange recognized as a problem, let alone who actually will qualify. It's now gotten to a point where if you can show you were in this place or that one, normally now you do. But that took a long time.
But hopefully, my organization is a C-19, so veteran-based organization, and those can lobby Congress on behalf of veterans issues. So it's not my tomorrow goal, but hey, as we find a better baseline and name recognition, and this is who vets is as a scale, can that be our 10-year plan? It's kind of a bummer because you're like, well, I don't want to wait 10 years to try and change things on behalf of veterans, especially with the administration we have going on right now. I feel like we have a great Secretary of Defense and Secretary of War. We have a great VA Secretary. It'd be wonderful to, hey, let's talk now. But that's a process to get to that level. So I'm encouraged for the future of what we're going to be able to continue to do.
All right. Well, I think that makes a pretty good concluding statement there. So thank you very much for coming in and sharing your story today.
I appreciate it. I love hearing about what the school has done, what you have done, and hearing about all the man hours you put in this program, and definitely see how healthy it is. I've heard from so many veterans the impact it's had in a positive way. I know this has had a positive impact on me. Especially looking forward to, hey, 17 years, from now, when my kid's facing the, do I go to college or do I do the military? Look back at this interview. And so, that's going to be a wonderful impact that hopefully this interview still has, to say, I learned a lot from Dad, and I'm still going to, I'm going to follow in that path, but on his own terms, so to speak.